Thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I am excited to have a new guest. I have Christine here with me, and I'm so excited about some of the topics that we'll be diving into that help women to be empowered, to live the life of their dreams. That's all what I'm about. So I think this is going to be a great conversation. But before we get started, I want to give Christine the opportunity to introduce herself.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited because I think you and I share a great common vision for women. And it's my real pleasure to be here. I am coming to you from north of the border, but I'm a real global citizen. And I think we are all connected at the heart. Doesn't matter where we live. We're all from the same place.
I love that. And so I love the way that you have the common mission, such as myself, about women's empowerment. You know, where did that passion start? How did you get to this space where you are today?
Well, first off, I think I was just incredibly blessed to grow up thinking I could be anything. And I credit my parents for that because I really did grow up with a belief that it's not going to be easy. Nobody promised you it would be, but you have everything it takes to make it work. And so I set off to blaze my own trail. I've had a really eclectic life. I've lived in 5 countries and 30 cities, some more than once. I've got great packing skills. But what it taught me was the importance of know yourself, because you were constantly meeting new people and constantly in a new place to reinvent yourself. And that's really what taught me that lesson really early. And what gets me so excited about helping other women to say you can define success for yourself, and there is no set path. There are no mistakes. Every step in the journey matters. You might not see it in the moment, but keep going. There's a reason for it.
Yeah. And I love the whole thing about reinventing yourself everywhere you go. You know, that is a very, that's so true right now. We have a lot of reinvention going on post-pandemic or whatever phase people are in right now. But, you know, that's a very unique way to put it, you know, in terms of reinventing, because some people, when they go through that, it's like they lose themselves and forget about who they are, or a part of their life gets packed away and never gets unpacked in different places. So your choice of the word reinvention, explain to us, you know, what that means and how we can accomplish that.
I think it's 2 things. First things, I always say, what I like about the way I interpret reinvention is you get to choose the pieces you take with you. And those pieces that come behind you that you choose not to carry forward don't disappear. So don't devalue them. They are important stepping stones. But whether it's a new job, a new city, a new relationship, or a new path you want to create for yourself, every day we really get choices. And I think what's so important when you're looking at that reinvention is being intentional and saying, these are the pieces I really like, or these are the people that I think model the behavior and a path I want to get to. How can I use those stepping stones that they may have had before me to figure it out, but be choiceful? And when I say reinvention, it's really do it. And there's no right way, but use your stepping stones, figure it out, and don't forget to have fun. You know, it's not meant to be heavy. Reinvention is really meant to be joyful, and it's meant to be, I am feeling more that I'm headed in the right direction. And that's what's important to me.
That's great. Now, you know, we have so many people in the audience with different backgrounds. Some are single moms. Some of them are moms that, you know, dual careers where, you know, the husband and wife both work. And, you know, what advice would you give them about, you know, going through the process of reinvention, and how does that affect you if you have a spouse that is kind of not in that reinvention mindset, if so to speak?
Yeah, I can totally appreciate it. Thank you. That's a really great question, because to me, when I started my big last reinvention, and that was to become an entrepreneur, I didn't actually even consult my husband, which is sort of funny. He was like, should we have had a conversation about this? I'm like, actually, no, because I'm doing this for me. So my tip to people is, I always think it's so important to think about it 1 hour a day. You know, if you can commit to yourself that I will do something for me 1 hour a day, and that for single moms or moms who have kids at a various different ages. My kids, they're bonus kids. They're 19 and 21. They don't need me in the same way that they did 10 years ago. But I always say to them, find 1 hour for yourself. And that might not be 60 minutes in one setting. It might be
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes in the morning. It might be 15 minutes during the day. But if you can spend 1 hour for yourself to start doing some either reflection, some networking, some meeting some people, some just looking beyond your four walls, it will start the catalyst. And that 1 hour doesn't sound like maybe a lot. Sometimes it feels like a lot, but it's something that was my commitment to me. Life was crazy. I was getting married. We were moving house. I was blending a family. I had started a new job. My life was busy, but I saw an opportunity. I said, I'm going to do 1 hour a day. I can achieve 1 hour a day. And that's really how change starts. That choice, that intention. And that would be my tip is try to carve yourself one less show of Netflix. It might be 25 minutes. Try to find, lock yourself in the bathroom if you need to for a short period of time. Certainly did that when my kids were younger. It's like, I just need a moment to regroup, to come back and be intentional in those choices. But that would be my tip. Find a small minute.
Good. That's great advice, because I think sometimes we just know where we want to go and we want to take a rocket ship to the destination instead of recognizing that it is a journey. It's something that you have to take that journey in order to appreciate it and know how to handle and take care of whatever it lies at that destination. If you kind of overstep the journey, you're not going to be able to enjoy or maintain the life over there at the destination. So I think those are great points.
It's true. So, one tip, sorry, I would love to say is one thing we often overestimate is how much we can do in a short period of time. And to your point, exactly. But we really underestimate how much we can do in 10 years. So remember to give yourself a bit of grace. That's why I said to me 1 hour. I was like, I want to get there yesterday on Mach 10 hair on fire. That's my personality type. But I'm also really remind myself, and I put Post-it notes where I need to see them and said, don't overestimate what you can do in a year, but don't forget where you want to be in 10. 1 hour a day will help me get there. And that's just keeping consistent more than peaks and valleys. So that's my favorite analogy.
That's good. That's good. Now, so having this clarity and this focus, when it comes to maintaining your goals, how do you kind of create that space and keep that routine? Because, you've got the news or things going on in social media. And, when it comes to networking, are you live or virtual? All these different things that are outside of our control. How do you maintain this peace and composure?
I think I just always look at wellness as more than just the food I consume. So I look at, how do I be well in this moment? So for me, that's what kind of media am I consuming? I don't watch the news anymore. It didn't make me happy. It made me crazy and stressed and irritated. So I also follow people that were leading toxic positivity or leading unrealistic expectations. I think it's really important to know that your tribe is out there, because if you want to start making that transition, you might not have a huge cheering squad immediately in front of you. And so I felt it was really important to build a community and say, this is me just being honest. Some days are really great. Some days I am sliding backwards, but I'm still really clear on the vision. And what's really important is protect my mindset. Remember why I'm doing this. And when the days are rough, go back to that where I need to. And when I'm also then shooting for a goal, celebrate the small wins. A journal is really helpful for that. And I've said that to people that I've mentored all of my life. Keep track of the small wins. And they're not about what necessarily you want to tell somebody else was a win, but if showing up on screen to meet somebody new for the first time is really scary for you, celebrate you showed up. Maybe you don't have your camera on the whole way there, but you might grow to that. And a year from now, you might be, I'm happy to do that. But you don't get great at any new skill. You always think about your children, right? That first steps as a baby, I said, they're not deterred that they fall over 100 times. Embrace being that for yourself. Keep falling, keep trying. And at the end of the day, remember to celebrate your wins. Don't be so hard on yourself. And that's my biggest thing, is I have to tell myself that a lot.
That is so awesome. So talk to us about some of these celebrations. So many people who are hard on themselves, or, they just have these things happen. And, there is so much, what do I want to say? fulfillment from celebrating your wins. I mean, now I can understand that. I went through depression myself for 13 years and 3 hospitalizations, and I didn't have that time to celebrate. It was just like autopilot. So for those that may be in that space of where it just is, life is happening, what are some ways they can celebrate?
I think it's know the things that bring you a bit of joy. And so for me, one of the things I had to really rediscover, which costs me nothing, is I love to dance and I love to sing. And I don't like doing it in front of other people. So, my husband's like,
yeah, I was about to say, girl, let's break out with a song. Let me get ready.
Well, because my husband's so funny. He's like, you joined a choir and I didn't even know you sing. Like, you never sing in a car with me. I'm like, oh, I love to sing in a car. I just don't sing in a car with you or with the kids. And so, it could be things like that. But I had to really rediscover that. And all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I like to move my body. And that raises my energy. It makes me feel good. And naturally, like now it brings a smile to my face. But, find the little things that bring you joy. Or, for me, in those moments, I might be going to just stand on my grass and just going, look up to the sky. Isn't the world amazing? And yes, I have a meltdown going on and I'm going back to it, but I'm going back to it stronger. So I think part of it is reflecting to say, what are the things that just make you smile? It might be a phone call from a friend. It might be a resource or a picture that you have of your family. It might be, being outside, but know what they are. It's worth brainstorming that while you're in a good place to say, where do I find them so that they can be really quick touchstones? And they don't have to take a ton of time. They don't have to cost money. But to me, it's also, if I have a good moment in my business, I close the door, I leave my dog outside because he thinks I'm in crazy. And then I just dance it out for like 10, 15 seconds. And sometimes I video them and share them and say, guys, I'm having a win. I don't need to tell you what it is, but right now I need to celebrate that. That's helped a lot. So I'm getting more used to it now than it was when I started. But
yeah, you might be going viral, girl, with them dances. You never know.
Well, and the funny thing is, if there's a dance floor at any point when we're ever face to face, you will find me on it.
That's so good, though. That's awesome. And, I love the fact these are things that don't cost anything, so often, I mean, it's like we don't associate music with work. You can get on a Zoom call and someone plays some music and it's like, oh my goodness, it's like a whole new world. So we kind of disconnect our work from our life. And the more we can kind of weave that in together, I think that is just so good to be able to have that stability and focus and, just being able to move forward. So
find your favorite song. Find your favorite song.
Yeah.
Put it on play.
Like
make sure it's on your phone.
Yeah, I've heard that too. So that's good. What are some books that you could recommend? Because mindset is everything. What are some things that have helped you with your mindset?
I would give 2. I am an avid reader. So one of the things that I take pleasure in is actually saying to myself, I'm going to go and read. And I said 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it may be. But 2 books that really helped me a lot. One of them was by a woman, Mel Robbins, who I quite like her sass and her honesty. And it was the 5-second rule. And sometimes when you're really making a decision to change, to grow, to push yourself to a new place, to chase your dream, fear is the biggest obstacle we face. And her whole philosophy is just count yourself backwards from 5 and go do it. It takes 5 seconds of courage. That's it. And so instead we spend a lot of time imagining how it will go wrong, the world will end, and we're so in our own heads. And so that book has really helped me when I get intimidated by my own path. I just go, okay, seriously, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go do it. It doesn't have to be great, but it's done. And so that book was really great. So it's called The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. The other one that I really, really love is called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson.
Yeah.
Because it talks about those small degrees. And so that's sort of a theme for me. It's that 1%. We often think we have to climb the mountain. And we're so focused on how big the mountain is, it can be really intimidating. But it's that 1% change. It's like, if I'm trying to get healthier, it's making one small choice, putting 1 extra scoop of something good for me on the plate versus something bad. It's those small things. And if you slide backwards, 1 cookie doesn't derail you from your health goals unless you let it. But that 1% can make such a difference. And I read that book quite often. I go back to it usually once a year just to remind myself, stop looking 10 steps because the magic is in the small ones.
I love that. And one of the things that we forget about the small steps is that we're able to keep doing them. If something is so small, I was also listening to BJ Fogg. He talks about habits and stuff. And, one of the things they were saying was if you make a goal for yourself to floss one tooth a day, you make them so small that they're ridiculous that you say, I can do that. And that's the whole key. I think the challenge is not in doing something, but it's in getting started. So if you make it small enough just to get started, once you get started, that momentum will come.
I can see myself now doing a whole happy dance after I've lost all of my teeth.
Right.
Because that's it. Find the really small thing, do them enough in a row, and then go, look who now is flossing. My dentist would love me.
Right.
If I would do it more.
So
Yet I have no problem brushing my teeth, but yeah, flossing I could still do. So now I'm going to dance in your honor now whenever I go and floss my teeth.
It's good though, because if you have those, it's like you set the bar lower. I mean, and it's so funny because I think about times when I struggled with depression, I would have this checklist. I wouldn't get everything done. And then I would just pile on the next day everything that I didn't do instead of really taking stock to say, okay, I had 10 things on this list. I only got 3 done. So maybe I should make the list smaller rather than bigger. I don't know why we don't figure that out.
Well, this is a really important conversation. And we talked about how much things have changed in the last couple of years for many of us. Like we're all swimming in a different boat, but we're all experiencing a very different period of time. And I had a conversation with someone I was coaching with who is a high achiever, going through some health issues, got 2 young kids. Life is very stressful. And her husband's a pilot. So he's not working as much as he would typically outside of the fact we're not traveling so much. And she is destroying herself because she's not succeeding in the way she knows she's capable of. And we sat down and I had to put a bit of a red stop up and say, what does success look like in this moment? Not when you're Mach 10, hair on fire, life is normal and everyone is in school and your husband's working and you are breathing. What does success look like in this moment? And you need to make that list and scrap everything else. Your kids are they in a good place? Are you in a good place with your relationship with your husband? Are you guys communicating and still working towards the common goals? Because that is a huge win. You're not celebrating it. And so it's a really helpful reminder. Reframe what success looks like based on where you are.
So true. And
grace is important on that, right?
We don't take into account, your intentions may continue to increase, but your resources may decrease, or they may not even be available. Or, we have goals for our kids, but then our kids go through life changes. They start out as a toddler, then they're turning into middle school and talking back and having their own opinions. So I think that is so true. What does success look like right now? Because so often we have this idea that we created 10 years ago that may not even be relevant today.
No, and it's usually somebody else's version of success. Like, that's the whole reason I get so passionate about the world of success, because I said, who told you that was success? Is it your mother, your mother-in-law, your community leaders? Just, and don't ever assume somebody else's life is perfect. It's just foolish. And yet what you measure success is, it's really an important exercise. And to your point, who I was 5 years ago is not who I am today. Tomorrow I will be a different person. And I hope I'm evolving to be someone even greater in 5 years. And that's not self-flattery. It's what I hope is I'm still growing.
So true.
And I'm helping my daughters. And I said, one of the biggest reasons I got so excited was, my daughters are 19 and 21. So independent now, is sort of in the school or choosing school and choosing life, choosing partners in a bigger way. And their comment was, our generation was like, is it worth it? Because, you guys have made so much progress. You've opened so many doors, but is the struggle worth it? And I'm like, there's always struggle in life. I'm like, but to be loving your life in the small moments is easier than in the big ones. And that's so important. And I that's why I do what I do, because I said I want you to see women loving their lives, and it's the hug with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's simpler than you imagine. It's
So
not a dollar figure. It's the phone call when they need you. But it's all
mm-hmm.
those little foundations that make that really your echo.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think I said I was very blessed to have good parents who let me fly. And yet when they, go back to the simpler things.
Mm-hmm. And that is so true. And I hope a lot of people got that message during this pandemic. But, it is a very fine line to walk, because you have so many different outside forces. And I'm like you, I don't watch the news. It's so funny. My husband is like, you're in the media and you're going and talking to all these people. I'm thinking, hey, if it's really newsworthy, I'll find
Someone
out.
will tell me. Yeah.
Someone will tell me. And you don't have to know everything and you're never going to know everything. So if you're in this thing, I got to watch the news so I can be knowing what's going on. I mean, to me, that's stress. I'm with you. It was the same thing. I had to choose how I was going to live my days. I thought, look, they had me as free labor because I was a news anchor that wasn't getting paid. I would report everything that I heard that morning. And I'm thinking something's wrong with this picture. Okay. Because you start off and you're like, it's going to be a great day. Next thing you know, you're the news anchor for whatever story broke. And you're talking about that all day instead of what you wanted to do. So yeah, that was a no-brainer for me.
I had to convince my husband to come off Twitter, because I'm not on Twitter. It's one platform I'm not on. And I said, every 3 seconds, your default emotion is, I'm frustrated. And I talked about that in my community a couple of weeks ago. I said, what's your default emotion? Is it joyful? Is it happy? Is it positive? Or is it, I'm irritated, I'm frustrated, this is whatever on the negative spectrum. And I said to him, every third time I walk into the room, the lead comment out of your mouth is, I'm frustrated. The world is this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you need to unfollow.
So
he's
true.
like, what do I do with all my time now? I said, phone your daughter. Go for a walk, take the dog out, have a conversation with me, whatever it may be. But I said, you are remarkably happier 1 month after you stepped away from Twitter in the people you were following that were news related. And I just said, take a lesson here.
Yeah, it really does have an impact. I mean, I feel like I really live in a bubble. It was so funny. I had someone who was communicating with me back and forth through Messenger. And it was during the time there was some storm that was going on, but it was a woman's name. And so they sent me this message and they were like, just checking in, seeing how you're doing. And so they said, so how are things with Sally? I'm just going to say it was Sally. And I'm thinking, Sally, oh my goodness, did I forget a podcast interview? I'm going through all my messages, right? And so then I'm like, who is Sally? Did I miss something? She's like the storm.
That is classic. Because you know what? And you were like, I cared about the person, and people are thinking that there's a problem.
Exactly.
That's when you know you're succeeding in life.
Exactly. It was just hilarious. I'm like I said, I didn't want to say that I didn't know who Sally was. I'm going and searching, and it was hilarious. So, you talk about building community and how that's important. So talk to us about some ways that we can do that. Because some people, when you decide that you're going to empower yourself and do things a little different, this is a group of people that you are not used to being around. Some of the conversation you're not used to, but it is something that you kind of gravitate towards. So what are some tips on how we can work to build community if we've never done that before?
Yeah, I think the first thing you want to just confidently know, and if I have any weight to this, is just trust your tribe is out there. Because I think the first thing when you start to go, am I the only one who wants more? And in your circle, you might be. And so what I learned really early on in my journey as an entrepreneur is that while you may have a solo pursuit, you have a lot of people who are pursuing the same path. And so you think about, where do they hang out with? And maybe you sit as an observer for a while, and it's okay to sit as an observer. But you want to start to ask questions at some point of who else should I be following, or who else might be a model that I can watch from the sidelines, so that you can start to see the path. You don't have to jump into it immediately. And so that's one of the reasons I built my own community, because I just said two things. You might not have a cheering squad. And what I will tell you is a universal truth is a stranger will cheer you on, maybe more than your immediate family will initially. What's interesting is that the family will still watch avidly. They might heckle on occasion. It's unfortunate if they do, but don't let that deter you, because it's really not about you. And yet, if you can model somebody who is one chapter ahead of you, or maybe 1 year ahead of you, or 10 years, don't get caught up in the lesson of comparison, because that is the death, it's death of joy. But you can recognize that it's possible, and that's hopeful. And why I started my community is that, you might not connect exactly with my vision of what I'm doing in the business that I'm part of, and that's totally cool. But you might be in this community where you're going to see somebody else who goes, I relate to them. And what a beautiful compliment you can say to someone else is, I'd love to hear your story. Could you help guide me on the path that you took, or some of the big roadblocks you hit, so that I can learn from you and shorten my learning curve and feel like I have a home? And it's a beautiful gift to give, and it's in your power. And what's amazing on the other side is I've never found an entrepreneur who didn't want to reach back and make it easier for someone else who goes behind them. And know that there's a community and your tribe is there. The more you show up and say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm just going to take a small action, that 1%, that small thing, 5 minutes at a time, you start to build your story.
I love that. And, for those that are scared, to be vulnerable. I mean, for me, I'm like, hey, I'm an open book. There's so much freedom to being transparent. But for people who haven't got there yet, what are some ways that you can help them with being vulnerable? So we've got the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think that's just brilliant, because it's kind of like it causes you to transition, so your brain doesn't really have time to think. But what are some other things to kind of help us with our vulnerability?
I think the first thing you really want to shift your awareness to is stop thinking what could go wrong. Okay. The real conversation you could ask is, what will I learn? And what will I get better at by taking this small action? And really go back to looking at your child. Like I said, we know we talk lots of great moms here in the communities. Just remember how much courage they have. You have it too. You didn't lose it. It's still there. But I think we often get really caught up in, we're very self-focused. When you're born, you have 2 fears, only 2. Everyone else has learned. The first one is the fear of falling. It's a universal thing. All of us fear falling. And the second thing is we fear loud noises. So those are biological things. So the fear of making a mistake, or having somebody not like us, or the fear of looking foolish often will hold us back. But those are your internal dialogue of what will go wrong. Even if it doesn't go perfect, it very, very rarely, and I mean like 1 in bazillion million, will it cost you your life. It's not that extreme. It's nobody dies from embarrassment. And really, the embarrassment is momentary. You won't look back in 5 years and remember why you were embarrassed.
So true. I mean, it might be a week later and you forgot, And
at some point, the really embarrassing ones, you will laugh at to somebody else who's feeling their moment of, I think I might die. I think, I've just done something pretty epically embarrassing. And with the right community, we'll also jokingly say, I said, your audience, when you find your right tribe, isn't there watching you to fail. They are really there cheering you on. So that's why that community is so important, because I said, embarrassment is momentary. At the worst case scenario, you will laugh at it at some point. And trust time will help you there. So because at some point, your most embarrassing moments really become a great fire camp story.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so true, because you're able to really, that, hey, life goes on, but in that moment, we do have that thing like, oh gosh, I can just die. But, the more you grow, the more you can share, because you realize your stories are just part of the journey. They don't really define who you are. So I love that you said that. So this has just been a wonderful conversation. I could go on for hours, just great nuggets, you know. I hope people were taking notes, but what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Well, first off, you can certainly reach out. So I said the community is called Chasing Dreams and Making a Positive Impact. Would love to see you come and join the community. It's a Facebook group. You can drop yourself a note there, search for that name, you'll find us. And that's the best way to start a connection. You can also, I said, find me on social media, but start in the community. You know what? And if you find a home there, invite others to join it too.
Love that. So what final words would you like to share with the audience today?
I think I would just say this. Remember to give yourself permission to live your life. And I have a Post-it note. It sits just outside of my screen here. And I wrote myself a permission slip. So we talk about kids and giving kids permission to go on grand adventures or to go and learn at school. And sometimes the biggest thing that we do is like, I don't feel like I can take this step for me. One of the biggest gifts you can give to yourself is betting on yourself. And sometimes you need that external validation to say it's okay to go do that. So if you need that, join the community. But the most important permission is you can give yourself. And I'm 4 years into my journey, and I had to write myself a permission slip this year. And it says, I give myself permission to be massively successful and love my life. And I look at it a lot to remind myself, don't be so scared that you're going to sit and let it pass you by, even when it's epically embarrassing. So permission slips are important. Don't forget to give yourself one and figure out what that looks like for you. You know, permission slips are my favorite thing.
Writing that down. That's good. Permission slips. This has been wonderful. We want to thank all you guys for watching with us. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. We'll be sure that Christine gets them. If anything resonated with you, share this video with someone. You know, conversations like these can be a lifeline for people. We just want to thank you for watching. Thank you so much, Christine, for coming on board.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our time today. And I can't wait. We're going to definitely have to plan a dance party. Invitation.
Absolutely, because I need to learn some new moves. You know, these dances.
Well, my moves might be about 25 years old. I'm not sure they're that new. Although I can floss, I can probably teach you. That's the last thing I learned how to do.
Oh yeah, my kids, they got me with that. But with this TikTok and all these different dances that come out, it's hard to keep up with everything, you know?
Yeah, your kids will teach you. And they'll die of embarrassment, but you know.
I know, it's so funny. But this has just been wonderful. I really enjoyed our conversation. And again, we want to thank all of you guys for watching, and feel free to reach out, you know, get your community, find your tribe. It's so important. There's so much freedom in having a support group and people that really resonate with your goals and core beliefs and things of that nature. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you all on the next episode. Bye for now.